Lord Furion is one of a small number of senior officers that has been sent back by the King from the front lines of the mysterious war he has been engaged in for some time to help fix problems that the kingdom has begun suffering at home due to neglect and overcommitment of military resources. Furion has been subtly hinting to the King for some time that something needed to be done to stabilise the kingdom, and persistence appears to have finally paid off. However, Furion had been provided with insufficient resources to accomplish his goal, so he intended to use the tournament as a means to recruit some adventurers to assist him by performing certain special tasks. Darren had recently been assigned to Furion by the King's Officer School, and Furion had delegated the initial stages of the recruitment process to him, requesting he join a team at the tourney comprised of random adventurers and assess their viability as recruits. In a stroke of luck, Parsival, a junior paladin sent out on his first long quest for his order, had just arrived in town, tasked with travelling the lands performing good deeds. Furion decided he would make a good addition to the team that were forming. At the conclusion of the tournament, after being healed and cleaned up, the three members of the Pink Tabard team were approached by Lord Furion. Whilst making it look like he was congratulating the runners-up on a well-fought duel, he said, "Come with me, I brought my own meat. You probably don't want what they're serving in the square anyway. There is much to discuss whilst we eat." The three competitors and Parsival followed Lord Furion to the inn and up a set of creaky wooden stairs to his private quarters that had been provided to him by Ivan, the innkeeper. Normally this would perhaps be a room filled with a number of bunks to lodge a larger party of travellers, or as a private dining room for some well-paying guests. The area had been arranged with a central meeting/dining table, a bed in one corner, and a writing desk in the adjacent corner. Almost all the spare wall space was filled with armour and weapon stands to store all the extra weapons and armour for Furion and his men. The exception to this rule, a rather large wardrobe of a far higher quality standard of construction than the other pieces of furniture in the room. Seats at the table were offered to Furion's guests. Moments after sitting down, one of Lord Furion's men arrived at the doorway, saluting crisply before announcing, "The kitchen says the 5 pigs are done roasting, sir. They have used the special glaze you provided, as instructed. What are your orders?" Lord Furion replied, "Send 4 of them to the town square and bring the 5th one up here for our guests and the men to eat. Dismissed." The soldier performed another crisp salute and ran down the stairs. A few minutes later, 2 other of Furion's men arrived carrying a suckling pig glazed with something sweet, spicy, and exotic. The rest of Furion's men followed slightly afterwards. The meat was carved up and everyone sat down and had a good meal. During the meal, introductions were made, there was small talk and tall tales, whilst everyone got to know each other a little better. When everyone had finished eating, the men abruptly stood up and left, busying themselves with other tasks, and Furion addressed those that remained. "I think the villagers will have found that tasted a lot better than the first meat course that they served down in the square. Much less gamey. Now that we've eaten, there are matters for us to discuss." Furion switched from his jovial host demeanour to one more befitting of discussing serious matters. As most of you likely know, the king has been waging war for years now. The fact that most of the troops are off somewhere and not helping to maintain law and order and keep the citizens safe should be evidence of this in itself. However, basically no one knows anything about the war itself due to its secretive nature. I've spent my fair share of time on the front lines, yet still know very little. Fortunately, the king has finally realised that he is overcommitted to that conflict and has begun sending some of his trusted nobles, such as myself, and some troops back to try and address the problems that the neglect has caused, continued Lord Furion. Take Springview here, for example. They seem to have a few problems. It appears they managed to lose all their money in a protection racket. From what I have gathered, they were scared of lurking monsters, and the king's troops were not around to protect them, so paying someone that offered to protect them seemed like a good idea. It of course ended badly, remarked Furion. Furion continued, "The villagers and the council have not been totally forthcoming on all the details of exactly what happened, but I'm helping as best I can after reading between the lines anyway. Just giving them back the money they lost would likely not help. I have a rather sadly limited budget to work with as it is. However, my solution to the root cause of the problem was to help them train up a militia and protect themselves. To achieve this goal, I set up a small armory to equip them. I have my personal armourer working with the townsmith now, teaching him how to maintain the militia's armoury. It was gracious of you to let the militia lads win the tournament, by the way. It should give people faith that they can look after themselves now. Furion smiled before continuing. The tournament should have also brought some much needed funds to the town and will hopefully allow trade between other towns to recommence soon. We did kill a lot of rats out there today. Do you have any questions before we continue? Inquired Lord Furion. Can you tell us more about the war? Asked Darren. If I was not assigned to the Kingdom Recovery task, I would have been sent off to the front lines like most of my classmates. Unfortunately, I cannot add much to your understanding of the conflict, not because I have been sworn to secrecy or am forbidden to speak on the matter, but because I simply don't know a lot myself. Even though I have served on the front periodically, I don't know where the battlefield is because we've always travelled there by portal. I'm not even sure if it is in the same plane of existence. I don't know why we are fighting. All I do know is that our enemies are twisted abominations plucked from nightmare, and that the constant red glow that illuminates the damn place is enough to shatter anyone's sanity. Furion answered. Do you have any thoughts about the rats? Asked Sister Silvara. I hope today's activity made a dent. An enormous number were killed. It was a start, Furion answered. Oh, I just remembered we saw a nest up above the spring. Maybe we should send someone up there to burn that too, added Sister Silvara. Good point. We'll organise that. Our team didn't make it up there, responded Furion. Have there been any goblins seen in the area? We saw a half-eaten one in the cave, which was full of giant rats, inquired Mattis. They have been spotted around the area. I heard a rumour the other day that they may have abducted a number of village children in a series of sneaky raids. That might explain the lack of young children around town, said Lord Furion. Darren had one more question. Last thing before continuing, what do you make of those burnt fields? Well, it seems unnatural. The ground is too hard. You can't break it with farming tools or a blacksmith's hammer, or even the weeds can't grow through it. Would take more heat than should be produced by a burning field. Even if you soaked the whole place in hellfire siege oil and lit it, it wouldn't be hot enough. It's more like when bellows force air into a blacksmith's forge, but you can't put a whole field into a forge. So maybe it's magical in nature? Dragon fire? The villagers were being annoyingly unhelpful with this, Furion answered. That matches our observations, said Mattis. Furion went to his wardrobe and pulled a bottle from one of the drawers and a number of small cups and poured one for each of them. Here, try this before I continue. I wanted in a wager a while back with an old friend. Not sure if I like it or not. Stronger than my usual fare, said Furion as he offered everyone a drink. Everyone in the room accepted, feeling it was rude not to. The facial expressions revealed their varied opinions. It's interesting. Something fortified and was not produced on this continent. What I can taste of the grape character under the burn is not remotely like local produce. It's rough, but it's not horrible, and obviously travels quite well. What is it? Asked Mattis. It's something called Port, purchased in Port Nasty grape on the eastern continent. I think my friend had it for a while. There was a thick layer of dust on the bottle when I got it, answered Lord Furion, before he continued with his tale of how he was helping Springview. So, after proposing the formation of the militia to the town council and outlining my plans on how to achieve my goals, word was sent out that I was looking for people to join up. The first member to sign up is now their captain. He fought as a spearman in one of the local lord's armies in some border dispute many years ago, when he was just a boy. It didn't take him long to remember the training from all those years ago. Slowly a number of the younger villagers followed his example and joined. Furion continued. Now that I had my volunteers, I could begin training the fresh recruits. My men and I began training, and after a while, their new captain was able to take over. Farmer Jim, who led them in the tournament today, also assisted in parts of the basic training. Seems he was an adventurer in his youth, and somehow his old armour still fit him, but he felt he's far too old to be a soldier. Have you seen that guy's arms, though? Furion exclaimed. The training was going well. The militia was growing in ability. They're still pretty green, as Parsifal pointed out while we were watching the fight, but nonetheless, it was having a positive effect on the morale of the town. The council started having ideas of getting some cash flow back into the town with a tournament of some description. The militia captain had, however, made some recent disturbing observations. Even when the town had nothing to trade, the silk traders from Melford would pass through town on their way to the larger markets in the north, and usually resting the night at the inn. Recently, there had been none, so I sent Captain Reginald Borenstor and a small detachment of men to the Melford Orton region to investigate, see if there was a problem. But his report is long overdue. So there must be a problem, Lord Furion said in a concerned tone of voice. The lack of people coming from that way to the tournament is also further proof that something has gone wrong down that way, Furion continued. And this is where I need to ask for your help. I know that 2 of you are already in, but Mattis and Silvara, are you interested in helping me to investigate this matter? Are you looking for adventure and to explore new places? Mattis answered with, I thought we made a good team so far, and I got to try Port. So far, so good. I'm in. Sister Silvara answered with a question of her own. Can you help me find a man in black armour, with a black sword that kills priests and burns down churches, if I say yes? Furion was caught momentarily off guard by the oddly specific question, but answered as best he could, as this seemed to be important to Silvara. The only group I know of matching that description, minus the priests and churches bit, is the Black Knight Association, but they're really more of a theatre group these days, to make tournaments more exciting by giving the crowd someone to boo. Their original purpose was to give exiled knights a way to compete incognito, but that changed over time. I'll still make inquiries with them, although I doubt it will help. But I can make you a promise that if I gather any information that I find seems to relate in any way to your inquiry, I will pass it on, answered Furion. Then my answer is also yes. Maybe I will find clues on my travels. I enjoyed teaming up for the tournament and look forward to getting to know our 4th member, answered Silvara. Furion smiled. The formation of his special task force was completed, and his closing remarks for the meeting were, Orton is about 2 days south of here. It's a medium-sized walled town, following the River Mel in a sort of southeasterly direction from there for another day will take you to Melford. It's more of a village. Fabulous stone bridge, though, I hear. I suggest investigating Orton first, but for now, rest up. It's getting late, and it's not worth heading out until tomorrow morning anyway. Thank you for your assistance.